All right. Good morning. Happy weekend. Saturday morning. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Glad you guys are all here. I saw a lot of confusion in the chat this morning about the time. I do try and keep it to 11 a.m. Eastern time. I don't know why. For some folks, the timing would be off. I see how you could confuse it with my morning show for Badlands Daily. For Badlands Daily. I I like to get a little bit of sleeping in, like 8 a.m. on Saturdays. Sundays I don't get to sleep in, so this is my only day to get a little bit of extra sleep. So, although little insider baseball here, I I forgot to set my alarm Friday for Badlands Daily, and I was up kind of late watching the Miami game on Thursday, watching the Hurricanes going to the national championship, playing the Indiana Hoosiers, and they're probably going to get their asses kicked because Indiana looked freaking shit hot. Yeah, but I forgot to set my alarm, and I woke up at like 7:45. Normally, I wake up at 6, and I woke up an hour and 45 minutes late. So that was not a good day. That's the first time I've done that since the Marine Corps. I did it in the Marines once, and I woke up. I was supposed to be at work at like 5 a.m. Like you have to be on base in formation by 5 a.m. So I would wake up at about 4 because it's a pain in the ass to get on base. You got to go through like a checkpoint, and the lines are always long. And yeah, so one day I forgot to set my alarm, and it was daylight when I woke up, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I was still a boot. So you're going to get crushed for that. And so my phone starts blowing up. Where are you? And I made up some excuse that I was pulled over, and a cop was giving me shit for my exhaust on my car, and it worked. Anyways, all right, guys, welcome to the show. Going off on a little tangent here. All right, so this is the weekend review. If you're new here, please hit that thumbs up. Give us a follow, whether you're watching on Rumble, YouTube. I am streaming to X as well now. Check out my sponsors down below. Had some folks, using the CannCon promo code over at MyPillow last week. Thank you guys all so much for that. If you're looking to get some great products, I stand by every single one. I literally use every one of MyPillow's products that I have. The Giza Dream Sheets. I have the flannel sheets on right now because it's wintertime. I've got the bath towels. I've got the mattress topper. Ash talked me into buying the mattress topper. I've got the slippers, which are my all-time favorites. I've got it all. We've got the Rev 7 drink. They sent that to us. I'm not an energy drink guy, but it is pretty good. Tastes good. I don't like energy drinks. So yeah, mypillow.com. I've also got Mushroom Vibes, a link down below that you can use to check it out. All right, so after you hit the thumbs up, let's go ahead and jump into the news. And the first story up, let's jump over to this layout. Sorry, clicking all around. President Trump with a big Truth Social post. This was on January 7th. So this is the weekend review. So this is, some things you might have heard before, but you get, kind of my my clean interpretation. I don't know. I haven't had any coffee this morning either, so bear with me. For a very long time, buying and owning a home was considered the pinnacle of the American dream. It was the reward for working hard and doing the right thing. But now, because of the record high inflation caused by Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress, that American dream is increasingly out of reach for far too many people, especially younger Americans. It is for that reason and much more that I am immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations. I will discuss this topic, including further housing and affordability proposals and more, at my speech in Davos in 2 weeks. I can't wait for that speech, man. We were talking about that yesterday. Me and Chris Paul were talking about that. Man, that is going to be such an epic speech when he goes and talks directly to the enemy, goes into the Viper's den and speaks directly to them. Wow, that's funny. I say Viper Den, and I'm scrolling President Trump's Truth because I'm trying to find his other credit card. There it is. I found it. Here it is. So he's had a lot of posts, while everything's kind of going on with Venezuela and the Minnesota Somali fraud and everything else. he's been talking a lot about the things that are going to directly affect us. Home prices is one of the biggest ones. Most people that are, coming out of college, getting into, starting their lives, whatever, they can't afford a home. The value is through the roof. There's this chart that you can watch of like home values in relation to, let me put this on single frame just because I'm only going to explain this. I'm not going to find it real quick, but the correlation between home prices and income, and the income stays relatively flat, maybe going up at a small little increase. And then you just watch the housing values going up at like a 45-degree angle. And then all of a sudden it jumps up at like an 80-degree angle, almost a 90-degree angle straight up. You can't compete with that. And a lot of that has to do with, these destabilization efforts in some of these places where they go in, they destabilize a community. Everybody leaves. Well, not everybody leaves, but a chunk of people leave. Businesses get burned down, and they go in and they buy these properties up. They end up leasing out the business. They lease out the homes. They rent out the homes. They can sit on them and sell them when they're, a higher value. But I think most of them are just renting them out, and they're dictating the market. They are literally, you're having the market dictated by Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, a lot of these hedge fund investment firms. And there is a flip side to this. And, we always, are up in arms about BlackRock and all of these organizations, and rightfully so. But there are a lot of Americans that have their retirements and their investments and stuff in those funds. And so while we're bitching about them, a lot of people are also benefiting from them. So it is kind of a catch-22. Like if you get rid of BlackRock, people are going to have a lot of problems with their retirement accounts and with their investments. So yeah, it is a difficult situation to navigate, but when they are able to, so they can be successful on their own with corporations and businesses that do legit businesses, but turning home buying into a major business, where you have trillion-dollar entities overseeing it, and you're nothing more than an ant or a flea to them. I'm all for people, private citizens, starting small little LLCs and owning, 2, 3, 5, even 10 houses and renting them out. It's passive income. It's usually, pretty close to market value. It's fair. Like that's fine. But BlackRock coming in and buying 40,000 houses across the United States and being able to, manipulate the market however the hell they want. No, that's not cool, man. So President Trump going to regulate that. We'll see what he says at Davos on that. Here's another great post from President Trump. Please be informed that we will no longer let the American public be ripped off by credit card companies that are charging interest rates of 20 to 30% and even more, which festered unimpeded during the sleepy Joe Biden administration. Affordability, effective January 20th, 2026. I, as President of the United States, am calling for a 1-year cap on credit card interest rates of 10%. Coincidentally, the January 20th date will coincide with the 1-year anniversary of the historic and very successful Trump administration. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. Again, this is another huge move here, and I can already hear people starting to kind of melt down about this a little bit. I was listening last night passively in the background. I was listening to Onlylands, and Ash had a tremendous rant about this, and it's something she's talked about on Daily. Her and I have discussed this on Daily and some other shows. But you are beholden to debt, to debt. And like Ash was saying, they get these kids at a very young age, first and foremost with student loans, and then kind of coming with the student loans. Oh, you're going off to college? Well, you're going to need a credit card just in case of emergencies. And what happens when you give an 18, a 19, a 20-year-old a credit card and you tell them, hey, you can buy up to $1,500 worth of things and pay it off in increments over time. And you're like, oh, that's so great. Because I could really use, I really need new tires for my car. And that's, going to cost me $1,000, and I don't have $1,000 laying around, but I could throw down $20 a month and pay it off. Like, I mean, let's see, $1,000, $20 a month. That's, that's 50 months, right? That's 4 years. Wow. No, that's not. What am I thinking? $20, $100 would be 5 times. And it'd be 50 times. Wow. Take you 4 years to pay off $1,000 at $20? That can't be right. Why is my math not mathing today, guys? Somebody do math for me. I'm normally phenomenal at math. Every 5 months, you're putting in $100. There's 10 5-month period. Yeah, I'm right. It's 50. I'm questioning myself because it's so shocking. But anyways, the college student thinks I can do this, right? Then they turn around and that 4 years to pay off $1,000 turns into a lifetime because of the interest rate. You're never actually paying any principal. You're just paying the interest on it. And so what President Trump is doing right here, again, I see a lot of pushback from people saying, well, he's really getting into, capitalism. He's crushing capitalism. No, guys, we have not lived in capitalism for so long. We are in a full-blown corporatocracy. Gordon did an excellent segment on Thursday about fascism and how, in Italy, when they defined fascism, this was what fascism was. The cross-pollination between corporations and the federal government, the government in general, and the corporations buying these politicians to get policy favorable to them, meanwhile having very little regulation on what they can and cannot do to us, the consumer. And when you have just a handful of corporations that run the entire country, much like BlackRock buying 40,000 homes and being able to dictate market price, these corporations can do the same exact thing. And so what President Trump is doing right here by taking corporations, mega corporations and hedge funds and investment firms out of the housing market and taking them out of and limiting credit. Credit is the biggest scam out there. It is literally a product that has no product. It is a company that is making revenue without ever touching the money. It is such a scam. It is such a scam. And I get it. I get it. We all need credit once in a while, but to sit there and charge 20 to 30% is absolutely nuts. So major hat tip to President Trump for that Truth Social right there. Then there's this one that kind of concerns me a little bit. After long and difficult negotiations with senators, congressmen, secretaries, and other political representatives, I've determined that for the good of our country, especially in these very troubled and dangerous times, our military budget for the year 2027 should not be $1 trillion. I agree. It should be far less. But he went the other direction. It should be $1.5 trillion. This will allow us to build the dream military that we have long been entitled to. And more importantly, that will keep us safe and secure, regardless of foe. If it weren't for the tremendous numbers being produced by tariffs of from other countries, many of which in the past have ripped off the United States at levels never seen before, I would stay at the $1 trillion number. But because of the tariffs and the tremendous income that they bring, amounts being generated that would have been unthinkable in the past, especially a year ago under the sleepy Joe Biden administration, the worst president in the history of our country, we are able to easily hit the $1.5 trillion number, while at the same time producing an unparalleled military force and having the ability to, at the same time, pay down debt and likewise pay a substantial dividend to moderate income patriots, pay a substantial dividend to moderate income patriots within our country, President Donald J. Trump. Again, do I have a troll in here? I just saw a new case. I deserve a better quality of troll. Who's the troll? David Bumblebat? Hello, my name is David. I'm a military veteran, former FBI agent, currently on the FBI terrorist watch list. I'm not welcome to return to the USA. I've been censored on the media. Why? I don't know why. You tell me. I do deserve better trolls. Write a story, put it on Substack, and then send it to me, and I'll read it. But that's very concerning when you go from all of those things. Anyways, getting back to the news here. Thanks, New Case, for throwing me off there. 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion. That would mean to me a 500% increase, or excuse me, a 50% increase. And my math is really not mathing today. That to me signifies that there's going to be a massive shift in our military. I don't know whether it's going to be technology, whether it's going to be weaponry, whether it's going to be, moving from personnel to robotics. I don't know. There's going to be a massive shift in the military, and I don't subscribe to this one quite as much. There's going to be a war, a big war. If you're going from $1 trillion to 1.5 trillion, it's one of those two things. You're either going to pivot and reimagine. I hate using that term because the Obama, Biden, Harris shills kind of changed that word, but you're going to be reinventing the military in some form or fashion, or you are going to be you're expecting a conflict, a major conflict. Maybe not. Maybe we just genuinely are making that much money that we can afford. I'd rather take that $500 billion and pay down the debt every year, put it right into paying down the debt, although the debt's ultimately fake. And I think, that could be the, kind of the crescendo of Trump is just saying, yeah, just turn that number, that 38 trillion, just make it zero. What are you going to do about it? We did get some great economy news. Check this out from America First Insight. U.S. trade deficit for October 2025 was only negative 29.4 billion. That is the smallest trade deficit since June of 2009. That is fan-freaking-tastic. That is amazing, those numbers right there. Negative $30 billion is the trade deficit. Considering we've been running, oh, look at this. I get coffee brought to me and a sandwich, but the sandwich cannot be eaten now because I am on a show. Thank you, dear. The $30 trillion is an absolutely phenomenal number. Needs to be better. I want to see it in the black. I want to see positive numbers for that. But we're getting there. And when you factor, oh, that coffee is so good. When you factor in, when you factor in how that deficit right there is playing in, I'm not seeing the numbers to justify $500 billion to the military more. I'm not seeing the numbers to do that in congruence or in coordination with dividends being paid out to the American citizens. The stimmies, right? More stimmies. This time it's not from a bill that they created to print the money. It's actually from money that's coming back to our shores. I'm all for it. But again, I just don't see it yet. And maybe we're going to see it. That's October. A lot's happened since then. We got this news. And again, this is just predictions, an estimate, but dude, wow. The Atlanta Fed doubles their Q4 GDP estimate to 5.4%. They raised the estimate of fourth quarter GDP from 5.4% up from 2.7. That's doubled. They doubled it, driven by strong consumer spending and a narrowing the trade deficit. I mean, any way you look at it, President Trump is kicking ass right now. Now, we have not felt these numbers. And to be fair, this was kind of the tone we had with the Joe Biden administration, that all of this is fake. These numbers could be fake. For all we know, these numbers could be fake. I don't think they are. I think this is actually common sense. This is using, things like tariffs to our benefit. And we'll see. I think this is also Trump being a businessman and not, a blundering idiot like Joe Biden, who's actually being run by a bunch of globalist deep state swamp handlers who are, hell bent on destroying the country. This is President Trump, a lifelong businessman realizing what needs to be done. So I just want to show you this. I talk about this on Daily on Friday, and I want to dig into this a little bit more here. And I want to show you guys, these are the quarterly GDP numbers historically. And you got to go all the way down here to December 31st, 2021 to get anything even close to 5.24%. Now, I mentioned this on Daily. If you look at those numbers for March, December, September, and June, those numbers are phenomenal. June was 12.4%. Imagine Joe Biden being able to say, hey, I got interest at 12.4%, or GDP growth to 12.4%. They shut down the country. Everything was shut down. So all these numbers, I know you guys understand this. These numbers are completely fake. Like, we'll go through some other numbers that look kind of like, you could make an argument that they're fake. These are fake. This was cause and effect. The cause, you shut down the government. The effect, the government's going to be shut down. It's not going to be, businesses are going to be closed. You're not going to be making revenue. So then when you open it back up, you're going to see a boom because it's 12.39% growth over the previous quarter, right? It didn't grow. There's no baseline number that they use. It's not like, okay, here's down the middle. These numbers piggyback off each other. So when you bring something down into the negative because you shut it down and you stopped it from being able to do what it does, when you reopen it and you compare it with the shut down numbers, which are in the black, or excuse me, in the red, negative, it's going to go huge. So those numbers are fake. So let's keep going until we see our first number in the fives. And I believe it's in 2000, I believe. Here's another little downtick. That was the recession in 2008. And coming out of that, you get an uptick. Actually, we didn't get really an uptick. We didn't really get an uptick after that one. We do have a couple other, micro recessions that we'll see. But yeah, wait, where did it go? Where'd it go? I thought I highlighted it. Maybe I didn't. You're getting close to the fives here, around 99. I thought I highlighted it. I guess not. I thought it was in 2000. Yeah, there it is. June 30th, 2000, 5.24%. So that's the same exact number that we're seeing here 26 years ago. That was Bill Clinton's last. I think that was Bill Clinton's last quarter, second to last quarter. No, first quarter of his last year. But then, just real quick, because I was kind of shocked by this. There's another little recession right there, negative dips with good numbers coming out of it. If you scroll down here, look in here, June 1984, that's Reagan, 8%, but 8%, 7%. But that's coming out of a recession. That's coming out of the oil crisis. Jump down here, 78, you got 666. Rather it be 665. Anyways, but dude, look at some of these numbers down here in like the 40s and the 50s. Where is it? We saw 10% in 1950, 13% in 1950, 7%, a little bit of a recession there. 1946, we saw a dip, massive dip. 1941, World War II, got the economy booming, 17%, 18%, 17%. All right, so bottom line is the 5.2% is a phenomenal number. Phenomenal. Like, if that was Joe Biden that got those numbers, they would be going crazy. Crazy. They would already have awards lined up for Joe Biden if he pulls down a 5.24% GDP with a record 17-year low tariff deficit. Low in the trade deficit, tariff deficit. All right. Super Buff Shaft says, Brian, have you seen Trump's 5-minute truth that has Eric Spakeen and Jovan Pulitzer should lay to rest? He did an audit and expose the GOP. Should lay to rest that. Who did an audit and expose the GOP? I did see that video. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by it should lay to rest that he did an audit. Maybe if you want to confirm or say what you're saying. And let me take a sip of coffee while I wait to get a response there. Eric Spakeen is legit. I've read his reports. I've not read Jovan's reports. They're not published. I know people say they send me stuff all the time, and you can send me the little crosshairs and timing marks and all that stuff. That's fine. I want to see the actual report that would be, qualified as an expert report in a court case. That's what I want to see. I haven't seen that. Could be out there. I don't know. Could be out there. But until then, I have my reservations, and I'll just leave that at that. Eric Spakeen, though, has done great work. I've had him on a couple times. I've had Jovan on. I've interviewed Jovan. I think he's a very smart guy. Very, very smart guy. Jovan was one of the guys that helped do the AZ audit, separate from the main guys like Cyber Ninjas. So was Eric Spakeen. Eric Spakeen did an audit too in Arizona. What do you think about the oil from Vin hit the oil market? Vin, I'm assuming Venezuela. I'm not sure. Jovan does not like me. He might pretend that he likes me, but I don't think he likes me. He's called me some names before. I don't engage in that shit. So anyways, all right, let's move on. I don't want to get wrapped up in a side conversation there. I will periodically jump in the chat. All right, so President Trump on X, Rapid Response 47, put this out.
I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you that. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true.
Sir,
they thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland?
I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it, and they know.
All right, so President Trump is back on the Greenland thing, and good. I think Greenland is a very strategic place that should be under U.S. Jurisdiction. I don't think it should be under Denmark. First off, Denmark, I mean, I get it historically, but take the deal. You know, President Trump is talking about buying it, whatever the case might be. There's it's in our hemisphere, and we're going to the Don Roe Doctrine, right? We're fully on board with the Don Roe Doctrine, or I am at least. I can't speak for you guys. My dad texted me yesterday and was like sending me this long thing about somebody. So it's an article that he read, and he's like, have you ever heard of the Monroe Doctrine? And he's like listing out what it is and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, we've only been talking about the Monroe Doctrine for 2 or 3 years here. The Sovereign Alliance, you know, spheres of regional spheres of influence, that kind of stuff. But then at the end, it goes crazy, and it's like, it will help us fight Russia and China. And I'm like, if Russia, China, and the United States, if either of those 3 countries either fight each other heads up, it will be mutually assured destruction. So that's probably not going to happen. We'll continue to fight these little proxy wars, these little global conflicts and whatever. But Denmark is very important to us. First off, there's a lot of Russian ships that, it can keep tabs on from there. The resources are incredible. And for some reason, and it's beyond, I mean, we can speculate and guess, President Trump really wants Greenland. And, if we take Greenland from Canada, from Denmark, Canada's next. British territory, Canada's next. Let's get them all. Greenland is not too happy about that. Greenland. Denmark is not too happy about that. This is the Danish prime minister.
Firstly, I believe that the American president should be taken seriously when he says that he wants Greenland. But I also want to make it clear that if the United States chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops. That is including our NATO and thus the security that has been provided since the end of the Second World War. I believe in democracy and I believe in the international rules. Of course, I also believe that you do not change borders by force either one way or another. It is not only the position of Denmark and the Danish kingdom, fortunately, of Europe too. So I hope that the people will also take note of the once again significant European support that we are receiving.
All right, so her remarks weren't that bad. All right. The ones that were really bad is this guy here. This is the chair of Austria's NATO Enlargement Committee, which should be an oxymoron. 100%. You should not be allowed. NATO enlargement. NATO is not supposed to get any larger. So the North Atlantic Treaty should not get any larger, closer to the Pacific and to Asia. But listen to this meltdown. First off, remember, Trump is in passing said, well, yeah, we might have to, do something militarily. Come on, guys. We're not invading Denmark or Greenland, which would ultimately be Denmark.
If you take it, we take every single base of the Americans from Aviano to Ramstein, from Romania to all the other military bases will be confiscated and you will lose it. And the whole position of American power since World War II, if you take Greenland, you have to leave. It's very simple, Mrs. Miller. This is the leverage we have. You need these bases for...
This is the leverage that they have. Holy shit, don't threaten me with a good time, sir. You take all of our bases in Europe? Oh, no. Oh, no. You're going to take our bases? What are you going to do with those bases? Are you going to run them? Because we've been keeping NATO afloat for since forever. Forever. So what are you going to do? What if the European Union takes our bases, what are they going to? They have to go to their taxpayers and ask for $90 billion to fund Ukraine. Maybe if you weren't funding Ukraine, maybe you'd have enough money to run those bases. But that takes money, guys. First off, you have to have the personnel to run those bases. You got to have the logistics, everything else. We spend more money than every single country in NATO combined on defense spending. Where are they going to get this from? This guy is delusional.
Global power protection, you won't have it. And we can defend ourselves very well, and we will do that without the US nuclear shield, without the US troops in Europe, without the American bases. We will simply run these bases ourselves, and we run your boys home into Chicago and Ohio. And goodbye. If you go extreme, we go extreme as well. Be sure about it.
Yeah, please, please, please go extreme. I pointed this out to Ash when I covered it on Wednesday of this week. He's got this little lapel collection of pins here. He's got America very down, all the way down here at the bottom. Could be because we're at the point, we're the foundation of NATO. I don't know, but he's got Ukraine on there. That's the Ukraine flag right up there at the second V. Excuse me. All right. So yeah, I just think that's absolutely absurd. What a dumb comment to make about all of that. That's you're going to take all of our bases. That's the leverage that they have. I mean, that's not going to work against President Trump. Another president, one of the globalist deep state establishment, neocons or neoliberal. Well, I don't want to say neoliberal, but one of these establishment Democrats. Yeah, that might work with them, and of course, Fox News probably will play that and be like, no, we got to take Denmark if we lose everything in Europe. Okay, whatever. Let's talk a little bit about Venezuela. Now, I shared this. Well, actually, you know what? Let me pull up this post right here because this is more important to kind of set this tone. President Trump truthed this out on January 6th. I am pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. This oil will be sold at its market price, and that money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America to ensure it is used to the benefit of the people of Venezuela and the United States. I've asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships and brought directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, let me check something out. Give me 2 seconds. I should have done this before, and I apologize. I did not. Okay. So, we are going to be taking 30 to 50 million barrels of high-quality oil. Do you know how many barrels of oil the United States consumes per day? Take a wild guess. How many barrels of oil the United States consumes each day? About 20. So that's like 2 days. On the high end, that's 2.5 days of oil. That's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Not going to lie. But here's another interesting post that I saw, and again, I'm not vouching for this, but the concept, it makes sense.
After capturing Nicolas Maduro and transporting him to a U.S. federal prison to face charges, Trump announced the U.S. will run the country until a safe transition is possible. But what if the U.S. never leaves? The Petro reset breaks OPEC's global price monopoly. By seizing Venezuela's 300 billion barrels of oil, the world's largest reserves, the U.S. crashes gas prices to a historic $1 at the pump. This logistics miracle slashes shipping costs by 70%, cutting the price of groceries and goods by 30% overnight. Inflation vanishes as the energy tax is deleted, triggering a surge in domestic manufacturing. The currency collapse is solved by replacing the bolivar with the US dollar, stabilizing costs while zeroing savings. As a migration reverse brings 7.7 million refugees back to rebuild $400 billion in decaying infrastructure. The Southern Command expansion dismantles gangs and rebels, cutting crime by 90% as Venezuela becomes a de facto 51st state. This superpower pivot evicts Russia and China, freezing $60 billion in debt and granting the U.S. total military and economic hegemony over South America.
Sounds pretty good to me. Could be the ushering in of the golden age right there. Like imagine that if this investment in Venezuela ultimately leads to a relationship with them on that level. I should play this again after these few articles I want to talk about. But if you're able to get gas down to $1 a gallon, man, you would see this country just explode with growth. Explode. I mean, and this is, again, I played this, I think, with Ash on, I think it was Ash on Wednesday. And I should start calling that show Ash Wednesday. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you would see an explosion of growth, but would you see the corporations react? And how would they react? Would you see prices come down, or would they just fatten their wallets even more? And, I mean, granted, we would have more money to spend because we'd be saving, but the amount that we save on energy prices personally is not going to be we're not going to feel the effects nearly as much as the things that we interact with in our day-to-day lives. Shipping costs would come way down with gas at $1 a gallon. Anyways, let's jump into this story here. This is the Telegraph. We're going to talk about Venezuela for a few and kind of set up the narrative that's being laid out there. Secret meetings point to an inside job to take down Maduro. This was actually, I think, did I cover this? I don't think I covered this one last week. No, I did not, because that was 6 days ago. In a meeting room in Doha. Where's Doha? That's in Qatar. Some 7,500 miles away from Caracas, officials were busy discussing the future of Venezuela without Nicolas Maduro, its dictator. You guys got to remember, the Telegraph is an extension of British intelligence. So keep that in mind. A senior member of the Qatari royal family was acting as a bridge between the regime and Donald Trump. Maduro had no part in the secret meetings in Doha. His vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, and her brother George, or Jorge, were leading the talks. What do you think the odds are that Maduro had no idea that Delcy Rodriguez was going to Doha to talk with Trump mediaries as a go-between intermediary? What do you think the odds are of that? Remember a month ago, I think Trump offered Maduro to go retire in Qatar and live a life of, luxury and, all these other things. And apparently he didn't take it. I don't know. Maybe Delcy Rodriguez was going over there to scout out some real estate for him on his behalf and then held this secret meeting. There's no, I don't buy this. According to the Miami Herald, so British intelligence is relying on the CIA. British intelligence is relying on the Miami Herald. So again, definitely had CIA influence historically at Miami Herald. I still believe without a doubt that it's in there. Colonel Towner and I talked about this on Badlands Book Club with Ash on Tuesday. and specifically about the Miami Herald. And I brought up an article I'm going to cover here in a moment. But this is the globalists, using their Praetorian Guard, the intelligence, who are using their megaphone to try and sow doubts about the regime in Venezuela in order to destabilize what President Trump is already trying to do there. People are saying Trump just went in there and started a regime change, a color revolution. No, he did not. He ended the color revolution that they orchestrated over the last 20 or 30 years. He's ending it. Venezuela has been one of the most resilient. I forgot who, Colonel Towner told me another country that was extremely resilient. It might have been Argentina. Although they've got Malay now. He's kind of a globalist. He's a favorable globalist. I mean, people like what he says, and he's done fairly well from what we can see. I can't remember who the other country was. It might have been Argentina. Either way, reading on, it says, according to the Miami Herald, Ms. Rodriguez had reached out to Washington to present herself as a more acceptable alternative to the Maduro regime. I mean, they're the same thing. They've been comrades, if we want to call them communists. They've been comrades for a long time. She now rules Venezuela with the approval of Mr. Trump. Details of the meeting have fueled suspicions that the removal of Maduro was an inside job. Trump said the U.S. would now, quote unquote, run Venezuela through the transition. I think if you jump down here, I think there's a little tidbit about Machado. Mr. Trump appears to have sidelined Maria Corina Machado, Venezuela's opposition. Oh, I forgot. Chris coined a new term for her. I got to make a thing for it. Corina Acuna Matata. Maria Acuna Matata, Venezuela's opposition leader who won the Nobel Peace Prize last year. Mr. Trump said Ms. Machado did not have the support in the country to take over from Mr. Maduro. To the dismay of her supporters, reports suggested that her team were unable to persuade Washington that they had the capacity to take control of the state apparatus, primarily because they did not have the support of Venezuela's military. Okay, so Telegraph relying on the Miami Herald to seat the narrative, to seat the idea that somehow Delcy Rodriguez is not at all popular and Maria Corina Machado probably should be popular. I don't know if that's really where they're going, but I don't know. We'll see. So here's another one. This one from Reuters. Yeah, Reuters. Exclusive in post-Maduro Venezuela, U.S. eyes security chief as potential target. Sources say the Trump administration has put Venezuela's interior minister on notice that he could be at the top of its targets list unless he helps the interim president Rodriguez meet U.S. demands and keep order following the toppling of Maduro. Diosdado Cabello, who controls security forces, accused of widespread human rights abuses. That should be a flag right there. Anytime that an article and one of these Mockingbird media outlets says they're accused of widespread human rights abuses and they don't specifically cite like any example, like just one, that should be a red flag automatically. Is one of a handful of Maduro's loyalists that President Donald Trump has decided to rely on as temporary rulers to maintain stability during a transition period. U.S. officials are especially concerned that Cabello could, given his record of repression and his history of rivalry with Rodriguez, could play the spoiler and are seeking to force his cooperation even as they look for ways to eventually push him out of power and into exile. So they're telling you they're actively trying to initiate regime change with this guy. Why didn't Trump grab him when they did the Maduro raid? If this guy was going to be a wild card in bringing stability to this administration, why didn't they grab him too? It's kind of interesting. I mean, maybe it wasn't feasible. I mean, this was allegedly a very clandestine, covert operation. Maybe they just weren't able to. I don't know. They have communicated to Cabello via intermediaries that if he is defiant, he could face a similar fate as Maduro, facing prosecution on narco-terrorism charges. I love how they put that in quote unquote, narco-terrorism charges, or could see his life in danger. But taking out Cabello could be risky. Possibly, this was my favorite line of 2026 so far. Taking out Cabello could be risky, possibly motivating pro-government motorcycle groups. Walking through this world all alone. The crow fly straight. Sons of Anarchy. Come on, guys. Doing a little Sons of Anarchy here. What the hell? Pro-government motorcycle groups? Oh, man. I honestly should have had that song queued up for that segment right there. Damn. Shit the bed on that one. The possibly motivating pro-government motorcycle groups known as collectivos to take to the streets, unleashing the chaos that Washington wants to avoid. I can just see it now. The Mayans, right? They're a Latin American group of motorcycle gangs in Sons of Anarchy. They're very pro-government. You see them working very well with law enforcement to make sure that their community is safe and that their government agenda is pushed down. What a dumb. I don't know. You know, they say south of the hemisphere toilets flush in reverse. Like in the northern hemisphere, all toilets flush clockwise, and in the southern hemisphere, they all flush counterclockwise. Maybe it's the same thing with motorcycle gangs. Maybe motorcycle gangs in the United States and in the northern hemisphere are historically anti-government, anarchists, and I don't use that term necessarily as an insult. Anarchy. They're anarchists. I mean, Sons of Anarchy. I should have put that one together, right? It's right there in your face. Sons of Anarchy. But maybe in the Southern Hemisphere, they're like, yeah, we love government. We want more laws. We want rules. Yeah. Toilets flush in reverse in the Southern Hemisphere. It's like their thing. In one of her first decisions, Rodriguez appointed General Gustavo González López as the new head of the Presidential Honor Guard and the Directorate General of Military Counterintelligence. González López has been sanctioned by the U.S. and the EU, along with at least half a dozen other high-ranking officials for rights violations and corruption. So the U.S. and the EU, that's like a badge of honor. That's like Media Matters writing a hit piece on you. If the US and the EU historically have sanctioned you and they tell you it's because of human rights violations as they're trying to illegitimately overthrow your country, that should be a badge of honor. My dog just brought me his ball. Let's see if I can get him to jump up here. Come here, Cash. Come on. There he goes. There he goes. The cashew's making an appearance. What's up, buddy? Oh, jeez. Oh, man, he pushed off of the chair to jump to the couch, and his paws were in between my legs. We'll just leave that at that. All right. Oh, that kind of hurt. Oh, so let's keep going here. So he's been sanctioned by the U.S. and the EU, along with at least half a dozen other leaders, served as Venezuelan intelligence director until mid of 2024, when he was replaced by Maduro in a reshuffle of his cabinet and security team. Later that year, he began working with Rodriguez as head of strategic affairs and control at state oil company PDVSA. He replaces General Javier Marcano. González López was after Marcano was under scrutiny after Maduro's capture. This is my another favorite part. I actually did this on Cash got really big, guys. Yeah, Cash got big. But he's still got an underbite. We call him Captain Underbite because he's got an underbite, and it's so cute. All right, so the administration decided Maria Corina Machado would be unable to keep the peace. Trump instead, this is rich. This is rich. Trump has instead embraced a classified CIA assessment that concluded Maduro's top aides would be best situated to run the country on an interim basis, according to sources briefed on the matter. U.S. officials also decided to work with Maduro's allies for now out of concern that the country could descend into chaos if they tried to force a democratic handover. Now, that last part I do believe. I do believe that there could be chaos if they try and do a handover. But it's not chaos from the people. It would be artificially induced chaos, in my opinion. So when you see that Trump embraced a classified CIA assessment, this could perhaps be, and we've had this discussion before, black hats versus white hats in the CIA. Is there good factions of the CIA? And yes, there very well, there most likely is. I'm going to say there is, good factions within the CIA. I generally don't trust anything coming out of any intelligence agency because they that's their business. Their literal, business is deception, propaganda, psychological operations, psychological warfare. And so I take it, it's very difficult for me to trust that. But perhaps, it is a CIA assessment that, hey, if you try to replace Rodriguez with Machado, you're going to, if you try to replace Rodriguez with Machado, you're going to piss off the country, right? You're actually going to piss off the country. President Trump said she doesn't have the respect. And so the CIA is giving him it could very well be a genuine assessment that you're better off with this organization, with this regime right now, and maybe figure out a way to have free and fair elections. Machado's banned from running. Machado cannot run because of her engagement and her involvement with National Endowment for Democracy back in 2004. Ironically, right around the same time Smartmatic came into Venezuela. She cannot run because she was taking money from outside NGOs, CIA, National Endowment for Democracy, and she's banned for running for public office. There's other reasons too. She signed I'm gonna do a show just on Maria Corina Machado or Maria Kuna Matata coming up here pretty soon. So yeah, that's all I've got on that story. Now let's go to we just read the MI6, we just read the Globalists, and now let's jump into the CIA and see what the CIA has to say about all this. From the Miami Herald, Venezuelan security kingpin Diosdado Cabello vows revenge, after U.S. seizes Maduro. Just 2 paragraphs I want to read from this. 3 paragraphs, I take that back. Venezuela's powerful interior minister, Diosdado Cabello, is seeking to rally loyalists within the armed forces and the ruling apparatus, urging them to mobilize and vowing revenge against those who might have been involved in the U.S. operation that led to the capture of Maduro. Cabello is one of the most feared figures. Now, this is where this is the propaganda piece. This is the first one is just kind of giving you the foundation of what this article is going to be about. The second one, we are going to paint the picture for you of what you are to believe as you read this article. We have to use very descriptive terms. We have to either bolster or disparage the person, depending on what the tone and the propaganda effects we want from the article are going to be. And so we are going to do that in the second paragraph. Most people will make it to the second paragraph. And if you make it juicy enough, like a soap opera, then you might be able to keep somebody reading long enough to finish the whole article. Cabello, one of the most feared figures of Venezuela's ruling elite and a central pillar of the country's security and intelligence apparatus. You're just hitting on every heartstring right there for neocons, whoever you want, right? Well, maybe not neocons, normies. Let's say normies. I don't want to say neocons because they see through all this shit. They know exactly what they're doing. It's deliberate. Their engagement in regime change and their desire for war is deliberate. But the normies, the Fox News readers, they see this and they say, one of the most feared figures? Really? Really? Oh, he's a member of the ruling elite? That's a trigger word now. Even Republicans now are like, yeah, we don't like the ruling elite. It used to be every once in a while, oh, yeah, capitalism's great. You chase the American dream and you could own PepsiCo. Yeah, okay. And a central pillar of the country's security and intelligence apparatus. That's the biggest pivot, man. I can see Hannity with his little CIA pen. Yeah, that's the biggest pivot right there, is that is a degrading, disparaging, causes doubt and whatever, to mention that somebody is involved in the intelligence apparatus. I love it. I'm all for that. I'm with you on that. Don't trust anybody in intelligence. has been sending voice messages directly to military officers and regime figures personally loyal to him. Sounds like he's getting ready to start a coup, calling on supporters to take to the streets in defense of the socialist revolution. That is the paragraph right there that they are trying to fire you up, so to speak, right? They're trying to invoke an emotional response to get you to continue reading this article. Here is where they promote the continuation of the color revolution that President Trump just stopped. Cabello's moves, combined with the visible deployment of armed civilian groups, underscore growing uncertainty over whether the post-Maduro leadership, now formally headed by interim President Delcy Rodriguez, can realistically pursue reconciliation with Washington. Can realistically pursue reconciliation. We have not been reconciled with Venezuela for a long time. President Trump is on the cusp of that. This relationship developing with Venezuela is on par, maybe not quite as symbolic, but on par with President Trump crossing the 38th parallel into North Korea to visit Kim Jong-un. It's on par with that. I'm not going to go as far as saying it's equal to going to the Middle East and doing the Saudi Arabia, the Saudi speech that he did earlier on. I'm not going to go that far, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. This was a big move. This was a big move, and we'll get into why I think it's working out so far. But anyways, yeah. So that tone right there, that this administration is not going to be able to get along with Washington, is laying the foundation to continue on the color revolution attempts, from whatever faction of the deep state still remains in the CIA, actively working in the CIA, the globalists that still have the ability to make moves and counter moves in this kind of psychological war that we're seeing here. I want to play a clip here, and then I actually want to read something, and don't anybody tell him I did this. I want to read something that BB actually wrote, Burning Bright, over on X. So let me play this clip here and check this out. This is Maria Kuna Matata.
Delcy Rodriguez, as you know, is one of the main architects of torture, persecution, corruption, narco trafficking. She's the main ally and liaison with Russia, China, Iran. Certainly not an individual that could be, trusted by international investors, and she's really rejected, repudiated by the Venezuelan people. So,
yeah, totally, that's exactly what she is. So I'm going to read this post from Burning Bright because it is very good. It is very good, and he has a more eloquent way of saying what I'm trying to say here. Globalist stooge Maria Kuna Matata is now openly campaigning for a second regime change operation in Venezuela because the first isn't enough. And it's not just her, to be fair. It's not just her. She is the target that they want. Until she is the one there, they're going to continue the fight. They have too much invested in her. She's a Yale fellowship. She did, a 4-month stint at Yale before she went on to run for office in Venezuela. She is a George Bush lackey. She is a George Bush protege. Of course, she was funded. Her Sumate group in 2001 was conveniently started with the help of National Endowment for Democracy and USAID. So yeah, she is the target. So what's really going on here? I believe Trump executed a fake regime change op in order to intercept the real one globalists have been planning for a decade and attempting in various stages. Okay, so you could say it's a fake regime change op. I think it's I think he ended their color revolution by taking Maduro out. And I do believe that Maduro was a negotiated extraction. By taking out Maduro, by extracting him, staging photo ops with him, and basically getting mad about how Maduro does the Trump dance even better than Trump does the Trump dance, according to actual retarded media reports. Trump has essentially siphoned the energy from the enemy's color revolution and rug pulled its final stage. Keep in mind, Maduro's administration still controls Venezuela at Trump's behest and on his authority. This will not do for the National Endowment for Democracy or the ghost of USAID, both of which have donated millions to Machado's campaigns en route to her winning a Nobel Prize that was denied to President Trump, which is just about the cleanest reverse indicator you're ever likely to get in the info war. 100%. Trump ends 8 wars, completely turns around the American economy. And we're sitting here giving it to Maria Corina Hakuna Matata or doing nothing. Literally nothing. She got some people fired up, and that was it. By swapping Maduro out with his second in command, Trump is baiting the enemy into attempting to drum up support for a second color revolution in as many weeks because they didn't get the one that they wanted the first time around. Russia is considering following the same playbook in Ukraine, and China may in Taiwan because Trump has granted them the narrative shielding to do so while depriving the globalists of that very thing by slamming the door shut on Machado's legitimacy while shattering the carefully cultivated illusion of her public mandate. We have to accept, if we are going to go with the sovereign alliance theory, the polar regions of influence, the United States, Western Hemisphere, Russia is, Western Asia and Europe. And the EU can have a place in this too, right? The EU can remain intact and Russia can have the Eastern Bloc nations, kind of like the USSR, ultimately, to be honest with you. Let's keep the communism out, but kind of like the USSR. And then China has the Eastern Asia and the Western Pacific. And if that's the case, what Trump did, what Burning Bright's saying here is Trump went in and took Maduro out of Venezuela, and we believe it was an extraction. Putin should be able to go in and take out Zelensky. He's illegitimate. He's a year removed from his last election. We are a year beyond his last election that never happened. And same with China and Taiwan. Take out U.S. influence in these places. Take out, and I'm not. That doesn't mean we can't be trade partners and all that stuff. But we have intelligence operating in these areas. We have well beyond just businesses operating in these places. So if we're going to get to the Don Road doctrine, I think you could see something like that. Burning Bright's exactly right with this. Again, don't tell him I said that. In other words, Trump and yes, Maduro steered Venezuela into the path of the torpedo before it could arm itself. And very, very few in the so-called truth community have figured this out. Pro tip, when you find yourself, this is my favorite part of the whole thing. When you find yourself cheering for the same thing as characters who represent National Endowment for Democracy, United States, USAID, World Economic Forum, and NATO, you just might have gotten rugged. So well done. So well done. And then, so what do we have to, kind of support this? I want to play, this is a speech here, or not a speech, but a segment where Sean Hannity is interviewing President Trump, and he gets down on his knees, and I could get very descriptive here, but he basically takes care of Maria Corina Matata in this clip in how he describes her to President Trump before asking him how he feels about her. Like, he is just slobbing all over Maria Hakuna Matata. Check this out.
But this country is now based on merit again.
Let me ask you about Maria Corina Machado. I've had her on TV this week.
Yeah, she's a very nice person.
Okay, she won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes.
When she accepted that Peace Prize, she dedicated it to you. She said to me this week, both on TV and radio, that she wants to give the Nobel Prize, her Nobel Peace Prize, to you for liberating her country. In 2023, she won over 92% of the vote to be the leader of the opposition. Maduro kept her off the ballot. Do you have any plans to meet with her? And would you accept the Nobel Prize she wants to hand to you?
Well, I understand she's coming in next week sometime.
And I look forward to saying hello to her. And I've heard that she wants to do that. That would be a great honor. I did put out 8 wars, 8 and a quarter, because, Thailand and Cambodia started going at it again. So
I'll put the list
I
up
give a
if you
quarter.
want.
So it's,
Yeah.
you put the list out, as a hell of a list. But I've stopped 8 wars. And I think, it's been a major embarrassment to Norway. Now, I don't know what Norway has to do with it, but that's where the committee is located, a lot of Norwegian people. And it's been a very big embarrassment to the country of Norway, whether they have anything to do with it or not. I think they do. They say they don't. But, when you put out 8 wars, in theory, you should get 1 for each war, okay? Because some of these wars were going on for 30 years.
So President Trump has asked, Hannity, gets down and just falls in love with Maria Hakuna Matata. She's the front running opposition leader. I'm not even going to get into it. And Trump just is like, yeah, I'll talk to her. I'll say hi. She wants to say hello. I'll say hi. She wants to give you her Nobel Prize. You're the rightful winner of it. He is. If the Nobel Prize was legit, he is. I don't know. It's an absolute joke. So when you think about this regime change, when you think about Trump's not going to be able to get along with this administration, Delcy Rodriguez is not going to cooperate, yada, yada, yada. President Trump is pushing back on that. He is literally putting up, as BB said, he is putting up his own shielding here. And he's firing back at everything they try and spit out. He posted this on January 9th. Venezuela is releasing large numbers of political prisoners as a sign of, quote unquote, seeking peace. This is a very important and smart gesture. The USA and Venezuela are working well together, especially as it pertains to rebuilding in a much bigger, better, and more modern form their oil and gas infrastructure. Because of this cooperation, I've canceled the previously expected second wave of attacks. I love this guy so much. I have canceled the previously expected second waves of attacks, which looks like it will not be needed. However, all ships will stay in place for safety and security purposes. At least $100 billion will be invested by big oil, all of whom I will be meeting with today at the White House. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. And then he had another post. I have just been informed that Venezuela is going to be purchasing only American-made products with the money that they receive from our new oil deal. These purchases will include, among other things, American agricultural products and American-made medicines, medical devices, and equipment to improve Venezuela's electric grid and energy facilities. Equipment? Oh, okay. In other words, Venezuela is committing to doing business with the United States of America as their principal partner, a wise choice and a very good thing for the people of Venezuela and the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And why is that so important? Because if you understand how Venezuela became as, poor and as in chaos and turmoil as they are portrayed to us in the media, it is almost entirely Western influence's fault. When the color revolution, the soft revolution, did not take effect, when they went in there and tried to extract Venezuela oil, when they tried to control their economy, control the cartels, when they got resistance from that and they were not able to implement the regimes that they wanted, what did they turn around and do? They said, he's a dictator. Chavez is a dictator. Maduro's a dictator. They're exporting cocaine at the cyclic rate. They are they're selling oil to Russia, China, and Iran, which they very well may be, and they probably are, because we sanctioned them. The reason that these countries get crushed is because we crush them. If they don't cuck to the American imperialist economic hitman, then we literally crush them. And when I say American, I should say globalist. I should say globalist, because that's not fair to characterize all of America in that form. Because I think 99.9% of us are good. Just happens to be a lot of the people illegitimately elected to power are not. And so that is the point I think that they're making here. is or that Trump is kind of trying to make here is that now Venezuela is going to be trading with the United States. We are going to send them food. We are going to send them, textiles and other products and technologies, and they are going to completely change that country. I was cautiously optimistic, but also pessimistic about, the last weekend, because it was Saturday morning, right? It was a week ago today that we were talking about this operation to go in there and take Maduro out. And, we've been talking about it for a long time. We kind of foresaw it, but the way that President Trump was describing it, I was like, if this is how it happened, I'm not a fan of this. But again, I think it was negotiated. I think it's long been negotiated. And I think President Trump is showing you now how we are going to, as a country, by easing back on all the restrictions that we've put on Venezuela, we are going to allow that country to prosper. I want to play a clip here, and like him or not, I don't personally have any take one way or the other on Scott Ritter, but I think he's half right on this. He mentions the negotiated extraction, but he's still on board with Maduro's a bad guy, and he's going to prison for life and all that other stuff.
We went in and we got the bad guy. It looked very easy because, of course, we're the strongest nation in the world under Donald Trump. And we don't want to dig into how this was so easy, how the CIA probably paid hundreds of millions of dollars directly or indirectly to the political elite, including the military and security forces of Venezuela, to step aside and let us do this staged event, because this was a staged event. You don't go in with 2 troops of Delta Force into a hostile capital city and launch an assault of this nature unless everything was cleared in advance. That's the quickest way to lose 35 Delta troops. No, they went in. It was cleared hot to go in. It was a permissive environment. They got their made-for-TV moment, and then they left. And Donald Trump's going to build on that. But I think what you're going to see is that we have, over the course of the past several months, exploited both the sanctions and the possibility of lifting sanctions and the reality of the oil, of the money that's attached to the flow of oil. And we bought out the political and economic elite of Venezuela, including those who just a week ago were saying that they're standing with Maduro for life.
So personally, I agree with Ritter that this was negotiated. I don't agree that the CIA paid hundreds of millions of dollars or any money to extract Maduro, unless, so why would they pay that money if they don't get their person put in? They don't get the full regime change. All they got was Maduro. If they're going to pay that kind of money, they would have wanted, depending on who the mole is, and it could be a consortium of people. It could be a conglomerate. Why wouldn't you take more people? Now he's spot on. This operation makes no sense. The idea that we went in there. Now I've heard the rumors about this Venezuelan security guard. I think Josh Reed posted a clip of the guy yesterday saying, all of Latin America fears us right now because we unleashed weapons that they'd never seen before, Havana syndrome type weapons where sound or some sort of wave is causing people to bleed out of their nose and their mouth profusely, and it can't be stopped. Could that have happened? Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. I've seen a lot of RQ-170 drones. Is that what it's called? The RQ-170? That just hit me. Yeah, it is. RQ-17 Sentinel. The RQ-170. Keck. Anyways, it's very possible. I think it's more likely though that this was negotiated. We had to send in. We had to make it look big, make it look bad. Now, I do think that there was a faction around Maduro that was not going to let him go, and I think that's where the Cubans come in. And I don't think the Cubans wanted. I don't think the Cubans were going to allow him to go. I don't. And that's why I think we're getting reports that Delta killed a lot of Cubans. 32 Cubans, I think we're being told, which they don't know whether they were directly around Maduro or where they were when they got killed. So I think there's some truth to this. I mean, of course, this is purely speculation here. There's no reason to believe what Scott Ritter said is real. There's no reason to believe what anybody says about this raid is real. I'm going full Chris Paul on this one because this is something that you don't normally like. I'm even shocked that we were told it was Delta. You remember when we did on SitRep when we had Nick No on and we were talking about the blood, the blood. What do they call that? Shit, I can't. I think it's called a Doha. I think it's actually called a Doha, and it's like a blood pact where if you take somebody, they get to take somebody from you. And so when Joe Biden let slip that it was SEAL Team 6 that went in there and killed bin Laden, part of that Doha was that in order to appease, the Pakistanis, they had to, and Al-Qaeda, they had to sacrifice SEAL Team 6. Now, again, that is really speculative. That's what Nick No believes. I'm just telling you what he said. And this is coming from, the Alan Perot story, who was, legit as far as I can tell. I mean, the guy's, he seems a little crazy, but his story is legit. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent here, all to say that we have no reason to believe that Delta Force went in there other than what we're being told. And it makes no sense. And Scott Ritter actually is right on that if this was not negotiated and there was not a stand down order, Delta, no matter how good you think Delta is, they would have gotten obliterated. Yes, Perot is legit. Parrot, the Falcon Hunter. He's a character, man. That guy is a character. All right, so as we wrap up the geopolitics, we'll get into the U.S. stuff here in a second. Let's talk a little bit about Colombia. Gordon predicted on Thursday on Badlands Daily. He filled in for Alpha on Thursday. Well, they switched, although Alpha didn't switch. Gordon switched. Alpha no-showed. Still going to take shots at you forever for that, brother. Donald Trump truthed this out. Now, Gordon had said we're going to see a pivot to Colombia, and I think that's a fair assessment that we will. It was a great honor to speak with the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, who called to explain the situation of drugs and other disagreements that we have had. I appreciated his call and tone, and I look forward to meeting him in the near future. Arrangements are being made between Secretary of State Rubio and the foreign minister of Colombia. The meeting will take place in the White House in Washington, D.C. Now, Gordon posted this. President Trump to Gustavo Petro, there have been as many lies told about you as there have been about me. Now, one of the things, before I get into this, one of the things that Trump said, and we covered on Thursday, is that he told Petro, you got 3 cocaine facilities over there. We know where they are. They got to go. And Gordon said that Petro's already dismantled those. Those have already been gone. And that's, the lies that are being told about Petro, I think. And then when you see this interview, I want to see y'all's reaction to this interview, because this was pretty shocking to me.
Tell me more about what President Trump told you. You already told me a little bit about what you told him. ¿Qué me puede comentar?
El primero me dejó hablar 40 minutos de 55.
He let you talk for 40 of the 55
Yo
minutes.
muy latino, él muy estadounidense y fue más pragmático, él habló 15. Yo tenía la oportunidad de mostrarle la otra visión en los 2 temas que mencioné, narcotráfico y Venezuela. Y él en los 15 minutos vio, me lo dijo, de usted han dicho tantas mentiras como de mí.
He said, there have been as many lies said about you as there have been about me. Who reestablished that relationship between you and President Trump? Who was that senator?
Fue el senador Rand Paul.
Rand Paul is the one who connected you and Trump. He's the one who told you that Trump wanted to hear.
Fue el que solucionó incluso de un día para el otro se logró.
All right, so Petro is saying that he gets on the phone. Trump lets him speak the whole time. You wouldn't expect that. You would expect, when you think of President Trump, at least in the way that he's portrayed by the mainstream media and, the way he dominates press conferences and stuff, you would think that, and interviews with the mainstream media, right? Because the media is they're liars. right? And so he has to dominate those conversations. Those are not conversations where he's going to learn anything or they're going to learn anything. They go at Trump in an interview and they want to get that gotcha moment. They want him to say something. They want to back him into a corner. And he's very fluent in being able to stay away from that. And even if he does get caught in that, he's able to pivot and change that into something that is able to, he's able to, he'll say something. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but he'll say something, right? They're eating the cats and dogs, right? That freaked everybody out. Like people were going nuts about that. It was true. I mean, it's maybe a little exaggerated, but it was true. Okay. So when he's doing a media interview, he wants to talk. He wants to dominate that conversation. This was not a media interview with Gustavo Petro. This is a transactional issue. This is not entertainment. This is not, informational. This is transactional. He is trying to allow Petro to talk, to size him up and to see what's actually going on and to get his perspective on things. And then he has, 45-minute conversation for Petro, 15 minutes for Trump. And Trump at the end says, wow, there's been as many lies told about you as there has been about me. That is very interesting. The other really interesting thing, and I see Anita Happens already is in there jumping on it. Rand Paul is known for promoting drug causes. Perfect intermediary. I don't know about that. I have always said, it's kind of shocking how Rand Paul and Thomas Massie are going off on this. And I'm just going to throw this out there, man. Are they playing their roles as, the instigators, the provocateurs, whatever the case might be? I don't know. Massie, I'm more sold on Massie than I am on Rand Paul. I genuinely think Massie is a good person. I can't say as much for Rand Paul. Ron Paul, yeah. Rand Paul, not so much. But it's also not lost on me that the two Kentucky, prominent Republicans, quote unquote Republicans, both of them lean more libertarian. Are going toe to toe with President Trump. And then where does Trump set up the rehearsals for this operation? Allegedly, where does he set up the rehearsals? In Kentucky. Now, granted, they do have a black ops, black site in base in Kentucky. It's the same one I learned about in the Jeremy Brown trial, where the grenades were stored before they somehow mysteriously got placed in Jeremy Brown's RV. They were at that same black site in Kentucky. Maybe we could find that out. But yeah, it's not lost on me. So again, I mean, it doesn't mean anything, but the fact that Rand Paul was the one that initiated that conversation between Petro and Trump. And, Gordon has talked about this, how both Petro and Maduro, but a lot with Petro, were going after the cartels. They were pushing back against these cartels. So I just thought that was a really interesting conversation. We've got a lot of similarities here. President Trump did the same thing with Maduro. They had a conversation, a phone call before, and Trump said it was productive. He offered him a couple outs, and Maduro didn't take them. But did they negotiate the out to make it look better for President Trump? I mean, because it looks great, right? President Trump went in there and did this high-speed, low-drag operation, got a dictator out. Like, the left doesn't know what to do with that. They don't know what to do with that. I played the Ana Navarro clip where they're like, I thought you'd be happy that Maduro's out. And she's like, two things can be true. I can be happy that he's out, and I can be unhappy with how he did it. And then like a minute later, she's like, the people of Venezuela never could have overthrown Maduro. They never could have gotten him out of power. And it's like, well, Trump can get him out of power. He just did. Allegedly. Trump could do it. All right, let's jump into the United States, man. And the big topic here is the Somali fraud, and now the ICE shooting in Minneapolis. And so let's start there and jump right on in. Let me make sure I don't have any ads for today. I do not. So let's go. We're going ad free. So click the links down below. Shop at mypillow.com. Promo code CannCon. Mushroom Vibes. Or if you would like to, leave a rant or anything like that. But most importantly, hit the thumbs up. The thumbs up is the best way, and share the show out. Here we go. Let's jump into this. Health and Human Services, HHS to close Biden-era loophole. that let states pay child care providers without counting attendance. January 5th, 2026. January 5th. That's important. I'll tell you why in a second. HHS is rescinding a series of binary child care rules that required states to pay providers before verifying any attendance and before daycare was delivered. The Biden-era rules required states to base payments on enrollment rather than verified attendance and pay child care providers in advance of services and favor guaranteed contract slots with providers over parent-directed vouchers. All right. Now, I read the other day about how this says may require payment-based, may, again, pay providers. It shouldn't say may. It should say shall. But here's the thing. When you – whoa, that was not what I was looking for. When you allow this to happen – hold on. What the heck is going on here? Uh-oh. Stand by 1 second, guys. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry. When you allow – government contracts to have no oversight, it's going to be taken for granted. The federal government is bigger than any business in the world by far, and they don't have the best system of accountability. First and foremost, there is no criminal accountability for anything they ever do. Very rarely. You don't ever see it. It's resignations and I'll resign in shame and it's okay. I already got my $50 million in an offshore account and I'm going to resign in shame and go live in Tahiti and or in the Philippines and live on an island and sip Mai Tais all day. It's just what happens. There's no accountability. And so when you look at the child care program that we're talking about here, it's strikingly similar to the Feeding Our Future scandal that took place during the COVID era. And so in childcare, they don't have to verify that the students are real and that there's attendance. They just have to submit an enrollment page and they get paid. So I can say, hey, I'm starting a child daycare. My house is cleared for it. I got a license. I've got 20 kids showing up here every day. How do you know that? Well, here's their name, little Jimmy, little Becky, little, whatever. And you send it in. They say, okay, rubber stamp, boom, you're good. Also, I'm going to need that in advance. So before you even start school, okay, here's the year's salary, $1.5 million. There you go. They did the same thing with Feeding Our Future and the Child Nutrition Assistance Program. So in Minnesota, and this happened throughout the country, I'm sure, when they shut everything down, the government basically said, hey, these kids are no longer able to eat at school. They're no longer able to eat at daycare. And so we have to provide them food. And so they contracted with all these restaurants. And this is where the $250 million fraud scheme with Amy Bach and Feeding Our Futures came about. They went from, in 2019, they were billing like $3.2 million to the government to feed, children and all this stuff. And then as soon as the COVID lockdown happened, I think that 3.2 million went up to like 48 million. And then by the end of 2021, I believe, maybe 2022, it was 200 million. So in total, they made about $250 million. And none of it was ever real because they didn't have to prove that they were serving the meals to the kids. They just had to write it down. It's disgusting. It's retardedly disgusting that this could happen, but it's happening all over the place. And I really think that if they're as desperate in Minnesota as we think they are, I do believe that Minnesota is going to get worse in terms of the chaos and everything else. So here, check out this clip. This is Dr. Oz talking about Medicaid fraud.
Sent a letter to Governor Walz alerting him to something he probably fears and should have taken action in a timely manner to avoid. We are auditing all of the Medicaid bills, in particular for the 14 programs that he and his own administration have admitted were problems, and we're going to claw that money back from the Medicaid monies that they'll be getting. Now, this is a major problem for the state because they've got to own the fact that they have been bilking the federal taxpayer for their sloppy behavior for years. What we have learned so far in Minnesota is just the tip of the iceberg, perhaps the largest Medicaid scam ever. taking place throughout the state in many different fashions. But just alone with the things that we're concerned about, we're talking about $500 million or more of money that could be in places that we're not even sure how it was built, where it went. People are having trouble tracking it. We challenged the Walz administration to give us a corrective action plan by the end of the year. They sent us something after hours on New Year's Eve. It was completely insufficient. This is an appropriate response from the federal government. President Trump's very clear on this. He doesn't want 6 million people or less living in Minnesota to have all the fraud that happened in that state paid for by all the other taxpayers in the country. And for the 6 million people in Minnesota, Governor Walz let you down. His administration, despite all the blustering now, did not do their job. They did not take these very credible allegations over the last several years seriously. Just in the time that I've been administrator, they've been telling us that they have this handled. They did not. And so the corrective action plans that they have submitted, since they are inadequate, we're going to demand that they fix those problems, and we're going to claw back money to protect the federal taxpayer.
All right. So again, do I think that they'll get this done? Yes, I do. And I think that the people in Minneapolis, the fraudsters, I think they understand what's coming. Liz Collin, who was with Alpha News, and she's the one that put out that interview with the TSA agent where they were moving millions, hundreds of millions of dollars from U.S. airports through U.S. airports to Somalia, Kenya. She's the one that had that interview we played, I think, last week. She put this up from Craigslist. Now, again, this is Craigslist. I can make a Craigslist ad in 30 seconds. Make a Craigslist ad in 30 seconds. Whether or not it's, true or not, I don't know. Okay. I'm hoping that she did more due diligence. She seems to be a legit reporter. I think this is real. We pay up to $1,500 an actor per day. If you are interested, please send your child's age and a note of what makes your child special. Submit phone numbers as well as we will be doing quick phone interviews as part of the hire process. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to read this ad. And this is, let me see. Does she have the other? Yeah, sorry. I should have read this. I should have read this first. Daycare hiring child actors for 3-day contract in Ventura Village. Hi, all. My family runs daycare here in the city and have for over 5 years until Monday when funding was cruelly ripped away without cause. Due to this insane, poor decision, clear in white supremacy, we had to close our doors immediately. We must prove we are a functioning daycare to get the funding back. The issue is the entire client base never exists. Oh, no. The entire client base has already found new daycare services. So we need to find new client base as quickly as possible. To help hurry this state vetting process, we are looking to hire 20 child actors for 3 days while the state is present on site. We will be paying $1,500 per actor per day. So 1,500 times 20 is $30,000 per day, and I think they're doing it for 3 days. So they are spending $90,000 to defraud the government. That is what they're spending, $90,000 to defraud the government. If you don't have the client base, you don't get your license, period. Your funding, excuse me, not your license, your funding. You only get funding for when the kids are there. So you don't get to go out there and hire new kids to act this out so you can continue getting your funding. If you don't have the kids, you don't get the funding. That's how business works. If you don't have the customers, you don't get the funding. This is fraud. If it's real, that is fraud. Where are we going to go to next? Let's play this clip. And this is going to be like a little kind of a quote unquote, let's call it a palate cleanse. This isn't a palate cleanse. It is going to make you laugh though. And I hope you guys can laugh with me at both the Democrats and the Republicans in this situation because they're all fucking retarded.
But really, he's just a criminal. So raise your hand if you oppose Trump's pardon of this Minnesota individual.
Ma'am, this grandstanding nonsense.
This is not grandstanding.
Exactly
this is
what
accountability.
Minnesotans hate about D.C.
This is accountability, and you are hypocrites. So again, I will take your
Thanks for
refusal to
demonstrating
not
my opening
Mr.
statement.
Chairman,
reclaiming
order,
my
decorum. She's off the
reclaiming
rails.
my time. I'm not off the rails, please.
You are
Enough
totally
with your
off the
tropes,
rails.
Nancy.
Order.
Enough with your tropes. Give me
Order.
my time back.
Order, Mr. Chairman.
If Republicans were
come here to be
serious
a
about
gentleman.
reclaiming
Somebody
my
who's
time,
expired.
me.
You
Restore the
know your
time.
time.
Reclaim
You're
my
over
time.
time. You have no time left. You're
Reclaim
over
my
time.
time.
You have things to do. You're over time.
You're out of time.
Reclaiming my
You're out of
time.
time.
There's no
You're
time
out
left.
of time. We're done here.
You're
We're
not
done.
gonna touch in on time.
At least
Mr.
10
Chair,
seconds.
she's out of time.
Time's
Restore
expired.
the
Out of
time.
order
My
and
time
out
is
of
not
time.
expired.
Miss Presley,
You
you've
all are
already
very
secured your
unserious.
MSNBC spot tonight.
I'm
Your
not
time's
I'm
required.
looking for
Chair
accountability,
recognizes Miss
and you
Mays.
want to
You're
run
gonna be
from the
so good on
hypocrisy
MSNBC.
Chair
of your
recognizes
king
Miss Mays.
and this administration.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair
Chairman.
recognizes Miss
And
Mays.
Mr. Chairman, I agree. She's
Don't
going to be
care
a great
about
host on
hungry children. You wouldn't be
MSNBC.
cutting
This is
down.
my
I
time.
wouldn't want to jump
I
in front of
reclaim
Miss
my
Mays if I
time.
were you, Miss
I
Presley.
reclaim my time. This is my time.
I wouldn't want to interrupt Miss Mays. It's her time. Chair recognizes Miss. Oh,
Mr. Chair,
You're out of order.
she did not get all of her time.
Mr. Chairman,
She
she's
wants to
still out
insult
of
us
order.
for 10 more seconds.
What do
Your
we have
time
to
is
do to
expired.
get this
Chair-
woman in order?
Her time is expired.
Look, I get that the Republicans, Comer did a decent job. He did a pretty decent job. Although the MSNBC or MS Now remark was a little bit a shot, right? It's fair. You could take a shot. He did good, but Nancy Mace and Jayapal are just absolute retards. I know Jayapal started it and was far worse. I'll admit that. She was absolutely retarded. We're talking about Somali fraud. Let's bring up J6. Oh, I don't know if you want to bring up J6 as Antifa and all your little BLM buddies are breaking into federal courthouses right now in Minnesota. I don't know if you want to bring up J6 because I watched some of those videos and that's pretty damn J6y to me, except the Antifa parts of J6. I don't know if you want to bring that up, Mrs. Jayapal. But there was actually some serious notes and I want to start with from Congress in that hearing. This was here we go. This was Representative Brandon Gill just absolutely crushing this little, and I get it. He doesn't give the guy the time to answer. The guy knows he's a very well trained, he's very well trained in how to deflect from these questions and kind of push it back on the person asking the question. And so Brandon Gill is just getting information out there. He's not allowing a response until the end. And then, he does this very, very brilliantly.
I want to start with you, Mr. Balu. Again, thank you for being here. Let me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority.
Yeah, and just thank you for holding me in the chat. I was saying Jayapal. I meant Presley. Excuse me. I apologize for that. I think I always confuse those two. Yeah, thank you for that, Mags.
Majority of the
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir. Could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority.
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go on to that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about, let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%. So even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Again, you're using
non-Somali immigrant-headed households.
If I can just answer the question, when you're using the phrase native Minnesotans, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are as Minnesotan as any of us. They were born in the United States. It's only 8,000 of the 108,000 Somalis.
And nevertheless, the welfare usage is astoundingly different. Let me ask you again, does that make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Again, I'd like the opportunity to answer the question here. So again, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are born in the United States, as I understand it.
Okay,
It's
well,
a-
what percentage
Again,
of working age Somalians who have been in the U.S. for 10 years or more, how many of them speak English very well?
I don't know.
About half. The answer is about half. That seems pretty low, doesn't it?
Again, I keep trying
That doesn't
to make
sound like something that makes our
That guy is insufferable. Again, I keep you don't. The question was, does this make Minnesota stronger or not? Not. They're just like all of us. No, they're definitely not. Okay, let's just they've been in the country 10 years. They have not even made an effort to assimilate. Not even an effort. And if that's the case, you don't belong here. Period. And you know, maybe this is kind of getting out in front of the birthright citizenship case that's coming up, and that's going to be an uphill haul for Trump and the DOJ to make that argument, because you have Wong Kim Ark, that decision. But again, I mean, this is the problem here. Is you get these factions of the United States that are, you know, culturally foreign to American culture, and they get into these, you know, little communities, and those communities grow very, very quickly. They grow very, very quickly, and there's no assimilation. So they're essentially transplanting their culture and their, you know, their society over here, because they're fleeing it from there. It's so bad they're leaving there to come over here, and they're taking there with them over here. I mean, okay. Brandon Gill had the opportunity there to and I think he did very well. But he had the opportunity there to really crush that guy. Instead, he pivoted to the English thing, and that's not where he should have went. He should have said, sure, they're the same as us Minnesotans. They're exactly the same as us Minnesotans. Does their numbers that I just cited to you, does that make Minnesota stronger or not? That's the question. Not whether or not they're naturalized, whether they're U.S. citizens. That's not the question. The question is, when you have 78% of Somali Americans, there it is. I said it for you. Somali Americans, when you have 78% of them on welfare, does that make us stronger or not? Because guess who's paying for that 78%? Especially now that we're finding out how much of that is actually fraud. That's concerning. All right. We had another clip here. Byron Donalds did another very well job laying some information out there during this hearing about how a lot of this subsidy money is actually going over to fund the countries that these people are leaving, like Somalia, like Kenya.
I want to talk about use of funds. You've talked about some of these funds were used to buy property in Kenya,
Yes, sir.
property in Turkey. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Remittances back to Somalia.
Yes.
I think it's important for the committee to understand that these remittances in part are used in what's called the Hawala. I want to make sure I have the terminology right. The Hawala network. Ms. Robbins, can you speak to what the Hawala network is?
Yes. So it's an informal network where someone goes to a Huala place in Minneapolis, which is like a money exchange or a money sending site, and they say, I want to send X amount of dollars. And then there's a receiving site in Somalia, and they put take the cash out. So money doesn't cross the border. It's an order for money here that gets transmitted to Somalia.
For the time, because I'm out of time, I want to expound. In Somalia and other parts in the Middle East region writ large, a Hawala network is a bunch of money exchangers, hand to hand, not bank account to bank account.
Exactly.
And what is clear in Somalia and other parts is that Al-Shabaab, the largest Al-Qaeda affiliate in Somalia, they have their hands all through this network. So taxpayer money, United States dollars that are being remitted into Somalia in parts have been utilized or have fell into the hands of Al-Shabaab. Do you think that's a correct assessment?
Yes, we have plenty of evidence of that from money directly going to al-Shabaab, but then also indirectly because they take a cut of whatever gets sent to Somalia.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I know I'm over. Thank you for the additional time.
All right. So again, this ties back into along the same lines of what we were talking about sending the money out there through the airports, right? The funding of the terrorist funding, I tend to believe that is more kind of payment for services. That is intelligence assets, in my opinion, always to destabilize particular regions, and that's how they get the funding out there. We've taken out a lot of funding mechanisms for these people, meaning the intelligence, the Gladio-esque intelligence apparatuses. A lot of their funding has been taken away with USAID and NED, and the other three-letter and NGO organizations out there. But this is something that's been going on for a long time as well. I mean, the $100 million, I think the report I read yesterday was like this over the last 3 years, it's been $700 million that's gone over to Somalia alone. Almost $1 billion taken out of our economy. That's what people forget that, that's $1 billion gone from America that is now over in Somalia, moving through there, funding who knows what. So, and mostly, anything over 10,000, you're technically supposed to claim it before you leave. All of these claims are always just instantly approved. Somali people going over with millions of dollars, and TSA is just like, yep, nothing to see here. This is fine. Here is Joni Ernst talking about Ilhan Omar. Even though all this is going on, Ilhan is still trying to get some extra little kickbacks for her buddies in Somalia, Somaliland, which is Minneapolis.
What I uncovered the other day in one of our spending bills making its way through Congress was a $1 million earmark from Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, which was an earmark that was supposedly going to a substance abuse clinic, which actually happened to be housed in a restaurant and run by 3 individuals that share the same residential address, according to their IRS paperwork.
So they ended up taking that out, but just a quick little clip right there to show you that this corruption continues on. And then this will be let me check and make sure before I give bad information. Yeah, this is the last clip on the hearing and that aspect of it. This is Una Panuna Banca, Anna Paulina Luna, recommending criminal investigations into Walz and Ellison.
Recognizes Ms. Luna.
Thank you, Chairman Comer. Honorable Robbins, based on your record before your committee, when did Governor Walz first become aware of widespread fraud in Minnesota social service programs?
I would assume that he has been aware of it since he ran for office for governor in 2018.
By 2017, DHS investigators warned CCAP fraud could exceed 50%. What was that information elevated to the governor's office?
Yes, there was an OLA report.
Thank you, ma'am. By 2020, state officials knew feeding our future invoices were fraudulent. We know that payments continued to the AG's knowledge. Did they continue to the governor's knowledge as well?
Yes.
Attorney General Ellison agreed on tape to fight Minnesota's own Department of Human and Health Services in exchange for Somali political and financial support. In your personal opinion, do you believe it is a possibility that Governor Walz also made that personal deal, or that he at least knew about the Attorney General's agreement?
I don't know.
Okay. I don't want to rehash what you guys have spent hours answering. We know that there's a big issue with the fraud in Minnesota. So on a number of things, I'd first like to point out, thank you for being here today. But because of your testimony and because of some of the evidence that we've seen brought forward, as well as I'm sure the fact that this committee, I assume, at Chairman Comer's direction, will be soon subpoenaing AG Ellison, I would like to make criminal referrals regarding Governor Walz as well as AG Ellison. As you know, U.S. Code 371 and U.S. Code 2, which deals with criminalized conspiracies to defraud the United States and establishes liability.
All right, so we can get there. Defrauding the United States, money laundering, all the fun stuff. And the best thing that ever could have happened to Tim Walz in light of that recommendation is the shooting of that woman. Temporarily. I think that this is going to be a temporary fix for him. So, you know, I'm not going to play the video of the shooting and all that stuff there. Although the new body cam footage, let me pull that up. So I think that the shooting of that woman, you know, it's tragic. There's absolutely a fuck around and find out part to it, right? Don't run over law enforcement. Don't drive at law enforcement. Even if you think that, you know, oh, well, he shouldn't have been standing there. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Don't drive over law enforcement. So here's the body cam footage. Yeah, here we go. Poor lady. Poor dog. Lady had her poor dog in the back.
I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Whoa! So that was a little bit more than just, you know, what we're told. There's no fear for her life. You know, she didn't flee because she was terrified or anything along those lines. You got I don't know if that's her wife or girlfriend or whatever outside the car, instigating the ICE officer, pushing him. Whoa! And then, I mean, you clearly see she hit him. She hit him with the car. So anyways, that has led to all of the chaos and pandemonium and, you know, George Floyd 2.0, as they're calling it. Played this clip here. This is actually somebody who should be investigated. This is an attorney, somebody who should know better, working in the public defender's office.
What do you think? I don't know. I say we
And probably doing either meth or, I don't know, crack.
line up right across these and block these doors.
Yeah, right.
I second that motion. Go ahead. Try and move us. Let's block them in.
And you know what? She's a lawyer, so is that all right? Is that all right?
I refuse to provide legal advice.
Oh, okay, it's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's all right, because we're not.
She's a lawyer, but I refuse. I refuse to provide legal advice. I think we should block the doors, guys. I don't know what's wrong with me. It's really cold out here and I can't blink. I can't blink. Also, this is not legal advice, but I'm a lawyer. And so anything I say, you're going to assume is legally sound when I tell you to do something. And and it's really cold out here and I should be able to blink, but I can't. Holy shit. Let's watch that again. This is comedy hour right here.
What do you think? I don't know. I say we line up right across these and block these doors.
Yeah, right.
I second that motion. Go ahead. Try and move us. Let's block them in.
And you know what? She's a lawyer, so is that all right? Is that all right?
I refuse to provide legal advice.
Oh, okay, it's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's all right, because we're not.
But I will say, misdemeanor bail, $78 exactly is the minimum bail. Make sure you have some cash on you when
I got
you
some
are
cash
out.
there.
So she's telling them, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but here's my legal advice. You should have $78 on you to get out of jail when they arrest you because I'm telling you to break the law. Arrest that woman for inciting an insurrection. That's not. That'd be like saying, let me think here. I'm a doctor, but this is not medical advice. I think you should eat a lot of those pills. And also, here's some charcoal when you need to pump your stomach afterwards. But this is not medical advice. That's what she's doing there. Hey, guys, I'm a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but I think we should block this federal building. Also, make sure you take $78 with you because that's the bail to get out. That woman should be arrested, and she should be sanctioned and maybe even disbarred. Like, this is not legal advice, but here's my legal advice. That's not like a get out of jail free card. That you say that when you're sitting there and you're like, so I think the Supreme Court, I think I think they got that decision wrong. I'm a lawyer. This is not legal advice. Or when you're talking to somebody and you're like, what should I do in this situation? Well, maybe you should, I don't know. You guys get what I'm saying here. You can't say this is not legal advice and then give people legal advice on how to get out of prison or out of jail when the advice you just gave them gets them in jail because it's against the law. You're a lawyer. You can't do that. Speaking of retards, this is Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, who, by the way, interesting dig on his wife. I cannot confirm all of this, but I'll tell you what's being said after this.
Again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here.
Tough shit. They're there. They have the supremacy clause. They are enforcing federal law that you refuse to enforce. You can say that all you want. It's not very professional of you. It's also very insightful, right? Like imagine if Donald Trump on January 6th said to Congress, you better fucking overturn the election. He'd be in prison right now. So anything that happens to ICE as a result of him saying, ICE, get the fuck out. We don't want you here. He's responsible for. He's the elected official of that municipality, and he's responsible for his words have consequences. And so when you see these videos now of these protesters, these rioters going into hotels and breaking into hotels that they believe ICE agents are staying at, he's liable for that. I have a couple of clips of that, but then we've got this guy here. And this is the kind of stupidity that we're seeing from people that, I don't know if these are paid actors. I don't know what the deal is. There's more cameras here than there are people, first and foremost. And the guy starts out right. I agree with the guy for probably the first 35 seconds here. And then he goes off and he just completely forgets that we have an invasion in this country. 12 million people that we don't know shit about. We don't know whether they're spies from foreign countries, whether they're terrorists from foreign countries. We don't know if they're gang leaders, if they're traffickers, if they're criminals. We don't know anything about these people because people like this guy had no balls when it was their guy that was in power. When it was Joe Biden, I'm a Democrat, so I stand for wide open borders and just taking people and saying, yes, come on in. Here's a phone. Report back in 10 years when your court date is for whether or not you're going to get asylum. In the meantime, you are free to roam about the country wherever you want. I don't know shit about you. You've got 6 kids with you. I don't know if those are your kids. You could be trafficking those kids. And there's numerous cases. Remember the child care hotline that they set up and they told these kids before they went to their sponsors, hey, if there's any problems with your sponsor, you call this number and we will come and get you. And when Trump took office, Kristi Noem comes out and says, I think it was Kristi Noem, comes out and says 70,000 voicemails. They had 70,000 calls from those children that were placed with these sponsors, illegal immigrant children that were allowed to come over here and placed with people on nothing more than, yeah, that's my son or daughter. Here's a thumbprint. Here's a photo. Take them. They're yours. 70,000 calls of kids talking about being abused and sexually assaulted every single night, raped. They went ignored because assholes like this guy here want to play the partisan politics bullshit. It was cool back then. Now it's a major problem. We need to take up our guns and go to the White House and shoot the president, is what he's saying.
Just like with George Floyd. We gonna tear this motherfucker up. That's what the fuck has to happen. Does anybody know why we're giving the Second Amendment?
Okay, this is the 35 seconds I agree with, not that first little introduction.
Amendment right? Google it. It's to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. That's true. The police are supposed to be on our side, fighting, pointing their guns at the fucking government. It's the facts.
It's not the facts. The police are the government. I mean, they're not supposed to be fighting us or the government. They're not supposed to be fighting either. They're supposed to be neutral arbiters of the law, right? Enforcers of the law on both sides. They're not supposed to be fighting anybody, you dumb son of a bitch. But they're definitely not going to fight the government because the government is who created them. The government, they are the government. Okay? So I don't know the level of retard this guy's going through here, but tone it down, buddy. Tone it down. You got your 5 minutes of fame.
It's not for hunting. It's not for self-defense. It's to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. It don't get no worse than this. It don't.
Yep.
What the fuck?
I know that's right.
What the fuck? I have a little baby. I have a little fucking baby, man. And it's like I had to adopt her to protect her from this shit. You put a baby to my gun's head.
You put a baby to my gun's head. There you go. You said the quiet part out loud, brother. You said the quiet part out loud. You put a baby to my gun's head. That's what they want. They want another incident like that shooting with the ICE agent, but they want, and this didn't happen. Thank God. Thank God. But when they canceled school in Minneapolis on January 8th and 9th over that shooting, I believe that's what they wanted. They wanted kids to go out there. They wanted kids to either, most kids are going to stay at home, play video games, whatever. But they wanted other kids to say, hey, what's going on in Minneapolis? Let me go see what this protest is all about. Go down there, get, fired up, get indoctrinated, see this and get caught up in the moment, get the adrenaline rush. And then one of those kids gets killed and Minneapolis burns to the ground. Why would you? The safest place those kids ever could have been with all this going on was in school. And they canceled school over a fucking police shooting? Are you kidding me?
You put a gun to my baby's head, I'm gonna hurt somebody. That's what they're doing to us. I'm not Hispanic. I'm black. I just be sitting home.
Can we have, I think, I can't remember who it was on Daily that said it. Can we have a congressional hearing on whether or not this man is black or not? This dude looks Hispanic at best, or just like a really, really tan white dude who's done a lot of drugs.
Smoking my weed, enjoying my money.
Yeah.
But I'll die about this shit. I don't have no quality of life left. If you think you do, you're fucking nuts. We don't have no quality of life left. My wife is a documented. She has her work permits legit. She won't go to work because they'll take her still. They're taking people that have documents. They're taking kids. They're doing all, you guys, this.
They're not taking anybody that has documents, first and foremost. Second of all, you said you had to adopt her baby to be your own so he doesn't get deported. The baby doesn't get deported. And the mom, I'm assuming. So is she documented or not? Might want to check into that, Tom Homan. Might want to look into this guy because he's inciting a whole lot of violence to protect illegals that have no business being in this country whatsoever. Never. I can't say never, but I highly doubt this guy was protesting from 2021 to 2024 when they were pouring across our border and, all the fraud we're seeing now throughout, mainly the blue states, but throughout the country. And hopefully more of this fraud gets exposed. But a lot of this, the supplemental nutritional assistance program, these illegals are receiving more welfare benefits than most of us. I started the show off talking about the housing, right? And how BlackRock and all these groups are buying up the housing. Where do you think they're buying the housing up from? How many of these, maybe Trump's trying to point us to something here. How many of these major hedge funds bought up property in very poor neighborhoods like this and are making Section 8 government-funded subsidized money off of these migrants? That's something worth looking into. Where are the properties that they're buying? We know BlackRock's not buying $10 million homes. That's pretty interesting. All right, let's keep going.
This is where the world ends.
There's nothing left.
There's nothing left. They go snatch the president of Venezuela, but our fucking president is a sex offender. Why are we not the White House dragging him out? By his fucking collar. That's where we gotta go, you guys, the White House. This is only gonna go so far. This is bullshit. This is bullshit.
He's doing the same drugs as that lawyer. He's like going off on this. He's like Will Ferrell in Old School when he blacks out in the debate, right? When he's debating James Carville and he blacks out. He's like, I don't know what happened to me. I blacked out. He just came to reality right here. He's like, holy shit. Did I just say we got to go to the White House? Well, let me run with it. We got to go to the White House. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. Why aren't we got to go to the White House. Well, I should buy a boat. Oh my goodness.
You guys, this is bullshit. You can just abort a baby.
All right. I thought that guy was hilarious. All right. Let's jump into the chat. I need to take a moment here. That guy was nuts, man. That guy was nuts. An actor probably making $150,000 a year. No, that guy. I don't. That might be genuine. I don't know. That might be genuine. The way he kind of backtracked when he said my wife is documented and was very reluctant to go further. I'm going to say that was probably a little bit genuine. The snow on the ground isn't the only snow going around. I don't know what drugs that guy was on, but like his whole demeanor changed at the end there, and he's just like, we should go to the White House. It reminds me of if any of you guys have ever seen Corky Romano with the movie with Chris Kattan, and he accidentally he goes to be he's an FBI agent and they're doing a drug bust, and he's fighting with the dog over a kilo of cocaine that the dog somehow had possession of or whatever, and so he's pulling on it and the bag rips and the coke goes everywhere, and you see his eyes just get huge like this, and then he goes out there and he has to do a speech in front of a bunch of kids that are visiting the FBI. And so he's out there and he's like, he's like freaking out. He's like, you got a question? You got a question? You do? You don't? You do? You don't? You do? It's okay if you do. It's okay if you don't. And then you're just out of nowhere. He's like, I should buy a boat. That's what that reminded me of with that guy. Let me see if I can find that. It's worth it. It's worth it. I highly doubt I'm going to be able to find it. That movie wasn't that. Oh, wait. I did find it. Holy shit. Holy shit. Let's play it. Let's play it. This will be a little palate cleanse for all the people in Minnesota that we're watching right now. This is a palate cleanse. Let's have some fun here.
Hi! Hi, Poochie! Hi! What's the matter? What's the matter? Poochie can't reach the water? No? Poochie wants some water? Poochie thirsty? There you go. You're a tough action police dog. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Okay. Hold on. Put it down. Put it down. Put it down. Come on. Give me the coke. Give me the cocaine. Come on. Come on. Come on. Let go. Oh. Come on! Poochie, come on! Come on! Come on! Poochie! The evidence room, where?
Agent Passant, there's a group of second graders from the Junior Crime Fighters League in the auditorium. I want you to give them a few words on law enforcement. Now.
As a special treat, kids, we have a real live FBI man here to talk to us about what it's like to be a federal agent.
It's a little loud. Clapping's a little loud. Yes, question. You have a question? You don't have a question? You don't? It's kind of hot in here, isn't it? They're making pant cider now, right? I don't know, because I don't wear jeans. Yes, question. I should buy a boat. Don't you think? No. A question. God, I gotta just. Yes, you have a question. No, you do. You don't. You do. You don't. You do. You don't. You do. You don't. Oh no, that's cool. You don't have to. No, You're down there. That's cool. Okay. So, yes. Yeah, I know.
It's kind of what that guy reminds me of at the end there when he just like realizes that he just said, we need to go to the White House. I should buy a boat. All right. All right. We'll have a little fun there. I can't look at Chris Kattan without seeing Monkey Boy. Yeah. Yeah. Chris Kattan, that was such a good movie. Like, I know it was really cheesy comedy and like slapstick, goofy comedy, but that movie, like he's driving in the opening scene, he's listening to Aha, Take on Me, driving in his little yellow Miata. Kind of a funny movie. So, all right, let's get back into the news. We're done with that guy. Let's get into Governor Tim Walz. Again, the man who was saved by this shooting. Governor Walz authorizes Minnesota National Guard to be staged. We'll go through this pretty quickly. He's saying, quote, Minnesotans have met the moment. Thousands of people peacefully made their voices heard. Minnesota, thank you. We saw powerful peace. We have every reason to believe that the peace will hold. However, yesterday, he doesn't say however, he just says, yesterday I directed the National Guard to be ready should they be needed. They remain ready in the event that they are needed to help keep the peace, ensure public safety, and allow for peaceful demonstration. Meanwhile, his cohort, Jacob Prey, is saying, hey, Minneapolis police, get the fuck out. Or Minneapolis ICE, get the fuck out. ICE agents. I don't know why I can't say that right. I just want to keep saying get the F out. But then this is the actual executive order they put out, and this is not in the same tone that quote was in. And I want to read these first three paragraphs here. On January 7th, federal immigration agents shot and killed Renee Nicole Good in South Minneapolis. The shooting immediately follows the federal government's surge of masked immigration officials in Minnesota. These agents have indiscriminately arrested people off the streets, intimidated our friends and neighbors, and have now caused the loss of life. Indiscriminately arrested people off the streets. It's not true. That's not true. They're illegal aliens. Most of them are targeted. And then if you happen to be around a targeted individual and you happen to be illegal, you're going with them. That's not indiscriminate. Intimidated our friends and neighbors. That woman was blocking them. She is part of an organization that deliberately goes out there and looks for trouble with ICE. That's not intimidating your friends and neighbors. You're trying to intimidate them. And then when you fuck around and you find out, that's where we're getting at. And have now caused the loss of life. Well, she caused the loss of life by trying to run over a cop, an agent. Minnesotans are feeling scared, angry, and disillusioned. And you guys know I am. By the way, he's also saying here, Minnesotans are feeling scared, angry, and disillusioned. They're feeling none of those things. They're feeling fueled by people like you to overthrow a quote unquote president, quote unquote regime with a president that you guys have, as we go back to the Petro thing, lied about for, 10 years now, the better half of 10 years. Minnesotans are exercising their constitutional rights to express their disagreement with federal immigration enforcement policies and tactics. Federal immigration officials have increased tensions, caused chaos, and left our state less safe. As part of the ongoing planned activities and in response to potential capacity concerns from local leaders, it is important to ensure optimal readiness in the case of changes to the public safety environment. That preparedness includes state assistance from the Minnesota National Guard. The National Guard can assist with preparation and planning activities, blah, blah, blah. That is dog whistle right there saying, if you want to get out there and do this, go ahead. This is what they're doing. They're intimidating us. They're bringing the federal agents are not supposed to be here is basically what he's saying. We don't want them here. And again, man, the sanctuary state, the sanctuary city, all of that shit's got to go. You had your chance. Like if none of this Somali fraud stuff was there and we didn't have illegals that are getting SNAP benefits and voting and getting all this subsidized housing and everything else, and they were just over here and going about their business, assimilating to American culture, whatever the case, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation in Minnesota. I'm not talking about broadly. I think broadly we'd have issues. But when you see $19 billion, are they saying I think they're saying it's 19 now, $19 billion in fraud just in one state, a small state, relatively, in terms of, it's not California, which is maybe next. It's not Texas. It's not Florida. It's not New York. And by the way, all those states have equally corrupt systems that are, I'm sure, being manipulated in this way. From Breitbart, the progressives are pushing a government shutdown to defund ICE after Minneapolis shooting, except Chuck Schumer doesn't want to be a part of that. Yeah, bring on the government shutdown to stop ICE. That's going to work out great. We got another, what do we got? Today's the 10th. So the next funding bill is January 31st. So that means that we've got 3 weeks to the day. 3 weeks to the day until we can start doing the No Kings protests again. That is, if these protests are not still going. And I don't think they will be, because unlike the George Floyd Summer of Love, this would be a dark winter, which Joe Biden's alluded to, by the way. And I don't know that they can keep people going this long. People don't like to be out there freezing their asses off protesting. Sweating kind of sucks, but it's okay. But freezing is very uncomfortable. Man, I had a lot more to get to, but I gotta start wrapping up here. Let me see if there's anything really crazy that I want to make sure we get to. No, I think that'll pretty much wrap up the weekend review for this week. I did have a lot, but I got, here's the videos I was telling you guys about of the hotels that ICE are staying at. Again, these things are so retarded. Look at how many cameras there are here. Like, people aren't there to protest. They're just there to film this and get the next viral thing. They're not there to protest. Everybody's like, I'm going to go Facebook Live and I'm going to get all these people watching my show. It's all media. Like, just look at the cameras. I'm going to mute it. Look at all the cameras. Camera, iPhone cameras everywhere. There's like 3 people protesting and like 80 people holding cameras, egging them on. And it looks way worse than it is because of that. Case in point, here's another video. Here's another one. Is it this one? Yeah, let me see where they get to the car. Maybe it's not this one. No, it's not this one. That one's not much of anything. Shit, maybe I don't have it up. Thought I did. All right. Well, I have the picture here. Let me show you the picture. Let me show you the picture, because I responded. Josh Reed had posted it, and I responded to Josh Reed, and I have a screen. Oh, here it is. Here's the video. Let me mute it. We don't need to listen to this because it's loud. All right. So here they are blocking a police car in Minneapolis. By the way, the Minneapolis police has come out. I mean, the union said no, but the police chief and others have come out in support. Okay, so look at this scene. Let me get a good stop part right here. Okay, here's a good one. Let's go through and count this. I'm going to make this full screen. I think you guys can see my mouse on this. No, you can't. You can't see my mouse, so let me stay here on the side. You got one camera. We're starting from the left and moving right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cameras, 12 cameras. Okay. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them are cell phone cameras. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. One person, 2 people, 3 people. 3 people that are not holding a camera right here. So you have all those cameras following 3 people doing what that third person is. Now, I'm not saying that these people, and again, this is not like, you cannot use the excuse, I'm a journalist, I am documenting this. If you are standing in front, like, I know you guys can't see my mouse for some reason. That kind of sucks. Let me see if I do it this way. Wait, if I do it this way. Now you can see my mouse. But what about this? Now you can see it. Okay. So 1 camera, follow my mouse, top left. 1, Oh, no, go back. Oh, man. That was a good shot right there with good lighting and everything. I screwed it up. All right, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to count that one because I can't tell. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Did I count his? 10, 11. And I think that's it. So 11 cameras that we're counting there. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are like actual cameras, and the rest are iPhones, cell phones. And then again, you have 1, 2, 3 potential protesters here. This guy's actually showing his face there, which is kind of interesting. Now, this person right here, for example, on the left right here, is screaming something, standing in front of the police car. So is this guy, although he's not screaming right there. This woman's got her arms crossed. She's a genuine, quote unquote protester. If this guy gets arrested for obstructing, interfering, whatever the case, whatever he gets arrested for, and he turns around and say, well, I was just a journalist. I was just out there documenting it. No. This guy back here with the tall camera that's got something overhead, he's in the background. He's away from everything. He's got an overhead view. He's shooting down. Okay, he's fair. This guy right here, probably fair. This guy here, probably fair. Her. I mean, this guy's doing a fucking interview, it looks like. These two people right here. Look like maybe that's a microphone. I don't know. Let's play it and see. Oh, no, that's a camera right there. So that's a camera that I missed. Now that's legit. That's journalism. That's journalism. But these are all cameras. These are all cameras with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. This is not organic. This is created by people who want to be the next big thing and get the next, George Floyd moment or the next Kyle Rittenhouse moment or whatever it might be. I mean, I get it. All right. I think we're going to wrap up there. That's really weird. I did not have any sponsorships come available today from Rumble. That's kind of strange. Ooh, I can hear myself now. Oh, what the heck? Now they pop up. I had to delete it or something. Well, that's weird. Let me talk about a sponsor here then, because I love this company. I love this company. And that is our friends over at Emerald Med. All right, guys, I want to share a quick story about a family supporting this channel. Their father had a rare form of cognitive decline due to his military service that made him unable to work. Their mother had to stop working too so that she could care for him. And I can relate. A lot of their story is incredible. I got to try and get these folks on my show. Their son discovered the new U.S. Library of Medicine studies on various mushroom blends that could significantly support cognitive function. So they began creating a complex mushroom supplement based on that research, not just to help their own family, but to help others. They nearly quit after multiple setbacks, having their first batch being stolen. Fast forward, now they speak at medical conventions nationwide. Their company is called Emerald Med, and their product massively supports brain, immune, blood, and heart function. Your cognitive function optimizes everything you do. You can get knees, heart, and kidneys replaced, but you cannot get a new brain. Although maybe there's some people out there that wish they could, or we wish that they could. So investing in the only brain that you'll have for the rest of your life matters. If you want to support a company, if you want to support a company that supports our channel and free speech with their marketing dollars, and you want to try a strong mushroom supplement, they're running a New Year's deal. Just click the link below and use the code for 30% off today. It's currently the most concentrated mushroom gummy in the US, has up to 400 compounds, and is rich in vitamins and minerals. With 6 formulas in one, it's like getting 6 supplements for the price of one. You can click the link below to try Emerald Med's mushroom gummies for 30% off today. All right. And thank you to Emerald Meds. I really like that company. They do the CBD as well, and I can relate to their story. So yeah, let's I think that's going to be it. I do have a couple rants. I think I had a couple rants. Let me just make sure. Yeah, I got 3 rants here. Let's go ahead and jump into these. All right, we read Super Buff Shaft. I'll read it again. Brian, have you seen the Trump 5-minute truth that Eric Spikina and Jovan Pulitzer layout should lay to rest? He did an audit and exposed the GOP. All right. Yeah, I always said I never questioned whether or not he did an audit. I questioned the report that we haven't seen from the audit. That's what I want to see. I have not seen what did he say was like a 22 binder report, like an encyclopedia. I think that's what he said. I don't know. I would love to read it. Would love to read it. If anybody's got the link, my emails are always open. CannCon@CannCon.net. My DMs are open. Although if we don't follow each other, it might take me a second to see because I don't check the requests. They put it in a different folder. Behind my chair, can't wait to see them denaturalized and deported. I hope we finally see justice. Amen. Amen. B. Jolly 14, during Rep. Gill's testimony, the witness said of the 108,000 Somalians, only 8,000 were foreign born. Do the math. Came to the country in 1992, 1993. What will their population be in another decade? Yeah, I know that there's that study about birth rates. Oh, I didn't just realize I haven't had this up. I know there's that study about birth rates, and I know that historically, or recently, I believe it's Caucasian Europeans are like down around 1.4 children per marriage. I think America, we're at like 1.7. And I know that most of the Muslim nations and Hispanic nations as well are very high. And Muslims, I think, are around like 8 kids for every couple. And yeah, I mean, that's how it is. And then they get paid for daycares. They have 5 kids and they get $300,000 a year while those kids are in school going to daycare. They're going to daycare until they're 18, folks. Daycare until they're 18. My 18-year-old needs after school care. $250 per student per day. Yeah. It never goes away, guys. Never goes away. All right. Let me jump in the chat for a second here. How about the vaccinated white people? Way lower. Yeah. Way lower. Jackie says, I'm telling Christy, your DMs are open. I'm telling Christy. She can hear me. She's in the house. Yes, Mags, follow me on all platforms, YouTube, everywhere. I've lost 156 people on YouTube in the last, whatever. All right, I think that'll do for today. I am going to try and I'm going to put together something on Maria Corina Machado or Maria Hakuna Matata and that whole situation, and maybe do like an exclusive show. I'll see if maybe Ghost wants to get in on it with me, or maybe Chris Paul or somebody that's dug into that as well. So, all right, guys. Yeah, that'll do. Stay frosty. God bless each and every one of you. God bless America. Make the fortune cookie country pay for this.
Blue 60.